You're listening to Episode 1 of Sergeant Mambo's Appletree of Weirdness podcast, a show devoted to the strange, peculiar, and odd. The artist you're listening to calls himself Mambo. We'll hear more from him later on in the show, but for now, just listen and enjoy. And we're back. That, again, was the artist who calls himself Mambo. We'll hear more from him later. But I'm glad to be producing this very first episode of the podcast, Sergeant Mambo's Appletree of Weirdness, Episode 1. And I'm your host, the Sarge. This is a show devoted to the strange, peculiar, and odd. And so to kind of discuss for a moment or two the hopes and plans and intentions of this show, I think I'm going to relegate most of my discussions to events, people, news stories, happenings, various things of that nature that occur specifically within the United States and Canada to maintain some sort of consistent reference point. That's kind of ironic considering the fact that the music artist for this episode lives in the UK, but it just so happens that I like his music and I've been listening to a lot of his music recently. So that's just how things work sometimes. So he's a very talented guy, and maybe, hopefully, possibly, we'll be able to get him on a show down the road. Also, I think for a while I'm going to discuss, or whenever I list an episode, I'm going to note a release time for it to sort of put some of the stories and bits into perspective. So this first episode is going to be released July of 2012. And I've got a blog set up over at WordPress, and I'll give some more specifics on that later. But, of course, the blog, as you might imagine, is called Sergeant Mambo's Appletree of Weirdness. It's both a podcast and a blog, or a blog with a podcast, or a podcast with a blog. Those sorts of things are pretty common nowadays. But I think that's where we're going to go. We're just going to kind of play it by ear. We're going to try to have some interviews here in the pretty near future. but for the time being, that's kind of where and how things stand. So I think we'll take another little break here and listen to another track from Mambo, and then we'll jump into some news stories. Okay, so here's an odd little news bit that came up. Absolutely perfect here for the first episode of the show. This is actually dated to June 27th, since this is going to be in my July show. I think this is appropriate. June 27th, listed on UPI, Tallahassee, Florida. I'm going to read just a big part of the article. Man traveling from Minnesota to Florida in kayak. Wow. So you read that and you think, okay, the guy's going to have to load up in a Ford Explorer or something there, part of the way, right? I don't think so. A Florida man is traveling from the northernmost point in Minnesota to the southernmost point of Key West, Florida in a kayak. Daniel Alvarez, who won an adventure grant from Outdoor Magazine for his 4,000-mile kayak trip, said his, quote, Heart of America paddling journey, unquote, serves both as an adventure for himself and a chance to promote environmental organizations. And he lists several organizations there. This reported by the Tallahassee Democrat. The gentleman, Mr. Alvarez, goes on to say, I want this trip to be more than just my fun adventure. The wilderness has already given me so much, and I want to give back. He's currently making his way through Minnesota's Boundary Waters Wilderness, and he also says that he's going to head from Lake Superior over to the Mississippi River, and then down to the Gulf. Wow. It's going to be something worth tracking. I think maybe on our next episode we're going to revisit what was going on with Mr. Alvarez. Okay, so with that said, let's jump over for we've got one or two more pieces. I'm not sure. Let me take a look. Looks like I think we've got two more pieces coming from Memo Tone, one or two. But now would be a time for us to have another little musical interlude. So I'll be back after this.